I'm James Brierton. Coming up on an all-new edition of the Carolina Weather Group. Breaking news, fires burning across the region, including in Tennessee, where evacuations are underway not far from the North Carolina line. Plus, we will take a look at storms raging across the Deep South, including a storm threat in the Carolinas on Thursday, and take a look at this video recorded last week in Pickens County, South Carolina. What do you see? Is it video of a tornado? We'll ask our panelists to provide their analysis coming up on an all-new edition of the Carolina Weather Group. It is Wednesday, March 30th, 2022. I'm James Brierton in Charlotte, North Carolina. Joining me on our panel this week, please welcome in from Charleston, we have Shay Gibson and Jared Smith. And holding things down in Western North Carolina foothills, we have Scotty Powell. As we begin tonight, a reminder, this show is brought to you by all of you who support us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Carolina Weather Group unlocks you access to bonus from our shows and upcoming episodes early. We actually have several that are ready to air, never before seen interviews that we would have brought you, but we keep coming on the air each and every Wednesday night, guys, the last couple of weeks with breaking weather news. So if you want to get early access to those interviews and help support this show, visit us at patreon.com/Carolina Weather Group. It is a jam-packed show, and if you're watching us tonight on YouTube or Facebook, we invite you to join the conversation in our live chat. And I do want to say that if you're watching from across the Deep South looking for tornado coverage, while we're going to be talking about tornadoes tonight, if you find yourself in a tornado warning, please seek out local experts in your area. We're not going to be deep diving any real-time warnings tonight across the Deep South, but we do know, guys, there is a scary situation evolving right now across portions of the Deep South. I mean, take a look at this on your screen right now. Severe thunderstorm warnings from Kentucky through Tennessee, through portions of Alabama and Mississippi. More tornado warnings popping up on the screen in real time as we talk, and it is a high mega storm day. I'm almost tripping over the SBC words, and that's a whole another ball of wax in itself because of the words that they have chosen to use to represent these things, right, guys? But it is a moderate risk, tier 4 out of 5. I hesitated to use that high risk word because it's a different tier, but nonetheless, 4 out of 5. And so we know that a lot of you right now are watching these storms. Scotty Powell, you're watching these storms across the Deep South. What have you just kind of seen? Bring our listeners and our viewers up to date.
Unfortunately, we've got another tornado in the New Orleans metropolitan area right now.
Really?
Wow.
It is just now developing just north of New Orleans, going across to Slidell. So this is an area that was ravaged just 1 week ago tonight in the lower Ninth Ward. I see that you're getting the radar pulled up here in just a second. You can see, that area right there. And if you go to velocities, you can really start to see it wrapping up here as it's about to travel over towards Slidell. Yeah,
wow.
Right there.
Yeah,
So,
that hook is really well pronounced there. Wow, that's a classic textbook hook echo right there. That's yeah.
This
bad.
is reminiscent of April 13th, 2020 here in South Carolina in a way, because it looks like a supercell within a QLCS.
Yeah. And the rotate, the couplet. I know, James, you just said we weren't going to deep dive into tornado.
We're not going to do road by road, right? So again, if you're in this area right now, please seek out local media. But we are going to, as weather enthusiasts and as informers for our Carolina audience, I mean, this is downstream. We are luckily going to see something not this strong tomorrow, but we do have portions of the Carolinas that are in a slight risk for seeing severe storms tomorrow. And to show you, again, this is what it looks like tonight. That Storm Prediction Center outlook off to our west, you have that pyramid of colors for marginal, slight, enhanced, and all the way up to moderate. And by the time this gets to the Carolinas tomorrow, these storms out ahead of a cold front, we're looking at least marginal risk, tier 1 out of 5, possibly slight risk, tier 2 out of 5, depending on where you are in the Carolinas. And as Jared will be explaining to our audience coming up in a little bit, there are some factors that will maybe bring this up or down tomorrow, depending on how things evolve. But yes, bringing back up that radar right now from New Orleans, just one example at this hour, guys, of the magnitude and the strength of these storms tonight.
Yeah, I'm watching on my second screen here WDSU, which provided the amazing video of the tornado last week going through the lower ninth ward, and they've got the sky cam up again. And this one, Jared, I know you and I was doing coverage last week when this was going on, and this isn't going to be a low precip supercell. This is high precip, a lot of rain and lightning, but this is honestly moving pretty close to locations that was just affected just 1 week ago tonight at this time. So and it's just I don't use amazing as a good thing. It's just it's hard to believe that.
Seems
It's
like
impressive.
we repeat this every week. It feels like these days.
Yeah. So right, I'll keep that on, and if I see anything pop up, I'll let
Yeah.
you know. But
Scotty Powell's going to keep an eye on the real-time weather situation that's evolving. If you're a video viewer right now of the Carolina Weather Group, you were looking at live pictures from the the Louisiana Department of Transportation. This is along Interstate 10, and as soon as I pulled the camera up in preview and I didn't get it on the air fast enough, there was a clear bolt of lightning out in the distance, and you can see still all of that lightning on the screen, the rain coming down, and even the rain being kind of pushed by the winds. This is slightly north, if I'm not mistaken, of where the tornado polygon is, but it is one of the best lit cameras that their DOT is providing us right now as we're continuing to look at this ongoing storm situation that is evolving again across portions of the Deep South, and will be coming here to the Carolinas tomorrow. Let's bring in go ahead, Scotty. This is live in real time.
I'm just looking at radar scope right now on my phone. I know you may have it put up in another window, but that just the hook signature is very pronounced. I mean,
that camera we're looking at is right here, and if it's looking south, and I don't know that it is, it would be looking down towards that rotation. That rotation, which is moving off almost due east, just crossed over the I-10 bridge here, and this should be potentially just offshore right now, right? If I'm not mistaken, our land is right on about in here.
Yeah, this is it's funny. I was just in this area back in August, and this is about a 7 to 8 mile bridge that is on Interstate 10 that connects you from the Louisiana, the New Orleans metro area into Slidell before you get back into the mainland area. And it's literally just it's a 4-lane bridge, 2 lanes on each side, with the Gulf of Mexico all around you. And now there's a tornado out there. And I can't imagine what it's like if you're on Interstate 10 right now, out in the middle of the Gulf there, with this rotation passing right overhead with just amazing rainfall rates. I mean, it's got to be a hectic, scary ride right now.
Yeah, I will say that I'm not seeing any debris being kicked up yet.
That's good news.
Oh. So, it's over water. You probably wouldn't, right?
Well, sometimes you can get
some spray.
Yeah, you can get some spray in there, and that can mess with it a little bit. Because again, if you think about it, you have the rainfall, right? You have the precipitation, which is going to generally be uniform. But then if you start getting spray coming up into it, it could, in a non-uniform way, it could, it could be some interesting things happening there. But no debris signature, but we'll have to see what happens when this crosses. It's nasty. This is as nasty as it gets.
It is about 4.5 miles from intersecting land once again near US 90. And we will keep an eye on this. And again, just to broaden it back out, not to lose focus, this is just one of several tornado warnings coming up along the Deep South tonight, also along with those severe thunderstorm warnings. Let's go over to Jared's graphics. He has another look at the regional view, which is our perfect segue, Jared, into what does this mean for us tomorrow, Jared, in the Carolinas?
Yeah, and obviously we look to the west and we see this going on tonight, and we are not, this is certainly something that we don't want to see. We have, a very strong, nasty QLCS, quasi-linear convective signature. That, call it a squall line. That's what we all are used to hearing. So we're going to call it a squall line. This guy is going to press eastward. Continue to press eastward, but again, the good news is that we should not be seeing it in full force here. So what I've got here is I've got the 18Z high res rapid refresh. We'll probably get a new run during the show. I don't think we'll be on for that to happen, but this is how it was modeled. Generally, about actually let's just move it up. Let's just move it up a notch and see how it was modeled there versus so it's the model is a little bit slower in some spots of the line and right on target in others, but you can see that's a very intense line of storms that's been modeled. And as we pull this forward through time here, let's go to tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I've got the other thing that I've got. You see these wind barbs up here. I've got the low level winds, the 10-meter winds, but I've also got the 850 millibar winds, because one thing that is going to cause a big problem is a very strong low level jet. Think winds, 5,000 feet off the deck, 65, 70, 80 miles an hour, racing off the deck here ahead of this and along this line. And so, so again, adjusting for timing, we'll see this line come through sometime early in the morning up in western North Carolina. The good news there is that it will be weakening as it gets over here. There's a very strong low right now tonight, a 991 millibar low around Chicago tonight. A very, very strong storm. But those dynamics are going to continue to lift to the north. And in the meantime, what we're going to have is this ongoing line of thunderstorms going on to the south. But as we lose some of that dynamic support, especially at the surface, that's going to cause parts of the line segment to begin to weaken. And you can see that the model at noon tomorrow starts to bring some showers across Columbia, some showers and thunderstorms from Columbia to Charlotte to Raleigh here, with the potential for some pockets of damaging wind. Again, when we have low level jets like this, it's not going to take too terribly much to get much in the way of strong winds down to the surface. And even outside the thunderstorms, you can expect, in the Charleston metro, for example, gusts to 40 miles an hour certainly seem like a pretty good bet tomorrow, especially in the overpasses. Tonight, I mean, Scotty, we're going to get to this too. Tonight, we could be looking at 80 mile an hour gusts in the Great Smokies. In the Smokies, and we're going to talk about that because there's a fire going on near Pigeon Forge right now, and so this is not the time to have this kind of wind, and so we're going to be seeing some really gusty winds across the Carolinas tomorrow. Now, you'll notice that eastern North Carolina is relatively untouched by showers as we're at noon here. Fast forward ahead to 4 o'clock, you start to see maybe a little bit of redevelopment here. We also could see maybe a little bit of redevelopment closer to Charleston as well. Again, what is probably going to end up happening is that thunderstorms ongoing around the Gulf Coast will once again kind of cut off that quality moisture source coming into parts of South Carolina. But when we get into North Carolina, they're going to have time to destabilize. And the other part too is that you're going to be a little bit closer to that low. So we could see parts of the line try to get back going there. So that's where that is where we are bringing in the risk areas again. So eastern North Carolina, much of South Carolina in that moderate risk. We do have that slight risk set up generally in like Raleigh, Greensboro, that area. And that goes up into Virginia, again, kind of closer to where that surface low is. And then to the south, from roughly Edisto Beach over to Allendale and Augusta, Georgia, southwest, there's a slight risk there as well, somewhat elevated severe weather risk. Again, damaging wind gusts, the primary concerns. Cannot rule out a tornado, especially where strong line segments can set up. So again, a lot to watch here as we get into tomorrow. Overall, messages, keep rain gear handy. Make sure you have good ways to receive watches and warnings. We do not anticipate the situation like we are seeing unfold right now, and we have seen unfold pretty much all day over in the Mid-South and along the Louisiana and Mississippi Gulf Coast. It's been a very, very, unfortunately, as predicted by the Storm Prediction Center and the local weather service offices, it's been another very, very scary weather day for those folks in that neck of the woods.
Question from Mac and Cheese, who's watching on YouTube. Could we have a small isolated chance of a tornado in the foothills for tomorrow. And I actually have here, Jared, the Storm Prediction Center's analysis on the probability of seeing a tornado tomorrow and across much of the Carolinas, essentially from the foothills to the east. We're looking at about 2% chance. I think that timing that timing is going to be our saving grace, but not enough that we can let our guard down. It's still a weather aware type of situation on Thursday.
Yeah, we're gonna have plenty of warm air pumping in ahead of it too, and
Yes,
and that should
indeed.
allow for at least marginal destabilization, even nocturnal destabilization. I think we're going to be able to get enough there to get that to go. And the wind shear, I mean, if you were in their advanced spotter class last night, you know how important wind shear is.
That's right.
So, Scotty, go ahead.
I'll say this. This is all dependent also on timing. I will say the line is moving a little bit slower, than what was anticipated. So if it continues to move slower or speeds up, that also can do some wonders or some magic one way or the other with this. But I also say this, Jared, you were mentioning something I want to keep in the back of everyone's mind is this is not the actual front. The actual front doesn't move through till late day tomorrow. So do we get that morning round of showers and storms, and then does the sun pop out for 3 or 4 hours in the afternoon before the actual front moves through? If so, we could see a few isolated storms develop like we did last week. Which
right.
could which happened. So I don't want to downplay it all the way. Keep in mind we have that morning wave, but we'll have to watch the afternoon because we could see a few more things develop as the actual front moves through the area. So tomorrow's just a weather aware day. No matter where you are in the Carolinas, from the mountains to the coast, you need to remain weather aware. All modes of severe weather are possible. The main line could move through early tomorrow morning for the western part, the central part. That could, kind of hamper things out tornado wise, but that damage and wind threat could still be there. As Jared was talking about, we have copious amounts of wind shear aloft. So that could definitely, any storms could tap into that and bring those gustier winds to the surface. So Let me
pause you right there for just a second, because we only have like 2 minutes before Shay has to jump in. You mentioned winds, and I wanted to let the wind expert just jump in real fast. Shay, the winds are already picking up here where I am in Charlotte. We've got a gusty situation, a high wind warning in the mountains. In the 2 minutes you have with us before you have to hop off tonight's show, what's your analysis on the wind threat?
Yeah, well, it's exactly what Jared said. I'm sharing screen. I don't know if you can see it or not. Yep, here we go. So, we have this convergent flow ahead of this front, and Scotty said the front doesn't pass till later. It's all the convergent flow ahead of it. And so low level jetting is going to be occurring at a pretty high rate until you get to the coast, where insulation, I think, is going to build over South Carolina, especially north of Edisto. We've seen that happen frequently the last few rounds, where even the cooler shelf waters will stave off some of the storms. But going out west to Tennessee, I mean, we're already seeing winds, gusting up into the 30s to the 40s. I know that there was some readings here that I was looking at a little bit ago. It's kind of jumpy because all these weather stations are over land. So you don't really get quality readings unless you get to maybe an airport. But some of our Tempest weather flow stations are getting some pretty high readings right now. We're getting into the 40s for some locations, definitely, mid 40s, which that could translate up towards 50 miles per hour for these gusts. And these wildfires are just being driven now. As this heads upslope, these winds are going to be these storms are going to be climbing upslope. The winds are going to be increasing. So your low level jet's going to be increasing because as you go higher up in elevation, the wind's already high there and the gradient's going to be tighter at the surface. So that means you have anabatic winds, not katabatic. Katabatic's on the other side of the slope, which will happen in Scotty's neck of the woods tomorrow. So the anabatic winds that climb in the orographic lift are going to increase even higher than that. So that's what you're saying, up to 70, 80 miles an hour. And that's exactly why, because the gradient, that gradient has nowhere to go but upwards once it starts to head up slope. And once it gets down slope, then it sort of relaxes on the other side of the mountains, unless you have a really strong tail end of that front feeding it. And that's where I think we're going to see some of that weakening occurring as it crosses over the slopes and heads down. Now, whether or not it grabs more instability on its way has yet to be determined. But at the coastline, yeah, sure, we're looking at 30, 40, not like I always say knots, but 30 to 40 mile an hour gusts. And, we just had an incident here with winds that were gusting over 50 where the truck, where the trailer, the container fell off, landed on a police car on the passenger side, thank goodness, and then slid and went off the bridge, the James B. Edwards Bridge, down into the Wanda River below. So again, we have another low-level jet force coming with high-profile vehicles along that corridor on 526, because they will not shut those bridges down because of commerce with the ports. There's certainly something to keep an eye on. And for safety purposes, I'd say if you're driving out tomorrow afternoon, the winds are really gusty, try to stay away from those trucks if you can. Just stay behind them or ahead, however you want to position yourself, but don't get to the side, especially on the inside where the winds are blowing from one side to the other. Don't get on that outside of them. Just from seeing it on the video, it scared the out of me. I was like, wow, I probably will never try to pass a truck.
Right, it's a good reminder.
I'm looking at Shay, I'm looking at Buffkit real quick and just kind of peeking at it here. I don't really have a good way to share this with everybody out there, but what I can see is that the mixing height's getting high enough to tap into 55 mile an hour or 55 knot winds, not too far off the surface, and this is well before any convection. So I share your concern greatly, especially for high profile vehicles, bridges, overpasses. Very concerned.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say good analysis, something to watch for. A reminder that folks on Thursday, especially if you're listening to our podcast, let's say it's Thursday morning and you're driving to work and tomorrow has become today for you. Our Carolina Weather Net streaming for free. Any place you can watch YouTube will have free weather warnings throughout the day. You can also subscribe to the Carolina Weather Group on Twitter to get real-time warnings from the National Weather Service. Shay, I know you got a hop. Thank you for that analysis. Scotty, I cut you off, and one of the videos I know you sent us before tonight's show showing the impact of those winds, not only in high-profile vehicles, but high-profile terrain. We've got high wind warnings up across the mountains in North Carolina and in Tennessee, which is providing a dangerous situation for residents who might live near trees, such as the one you shared with us here on Facebook. But also, Scotty, bring us up to speed. We've got an involving situation here on this Wednesday night of a fire, one of several fires burning across the region, but this one prompting evacuations on the Tennessee side of things.
Yeah, so excuse me, my eye was just itching there for a second. This is the latest as of 9:00 p.m. It's a little bit after 9:30 now. So as of 9:00 p.m., the Tennessee Department of Agriculture has released the newest update on what they are calling the Hatcher Mountain Road Indigo Lane Fire.
Rolls right off the tongue.
Yeah. It's hard to hashtag too. So anyways, I'm basically saying the Weirs Valley Fire in Sevier County, Tennessee. This is just outside of Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg. So I know a lot of folks are familiar with the Pigeon Forge, Gatlinburg area. As of 9:00, 1,000 acres now affected. And as you can see right here, this is on the backside of Hatcher Mountain. 1,000 acres affected, zero containment at the moment. I do know there was at least one injury, person airlifted. Not sure if it was from burns or smoke or whatever. I just had one injury with an airlift, and then unknown right now with structures affected. But there has been several structures, homes and cabins and things like that have unfortunately caught on fire from this event. So this happened earlier today, and I know I'm going to throw you a little curveball here, James, but
I'm ready.
I'm going to pull up my Twitter and I'm going to send you the radar. It was actually picked up on radar here earlier today. So I'm going to send this to you in our internal chat here so you can stream it up live. But the fire was so intense. Sometimes, and Jared is our radar guru, so I can defer to him. Sometimes fires get so intense that we can catch them on radar. And so this is out of Knoxville, Tennessee. And you can actually see the smoke plume move as the wind direction changes. But
Wow.
You can see the reflection or the reflectivity, the brighter colors. I would assume, Jared, you probably know more than I do. You're the radar person. That's probably showing the more intense part of the fire that is going in and out throughout the day here.
Yeah, certainly the more dense smoke for sure, and then the more particles that are being lofted into the beam, and the denser that is. Again, it's the same. It's the same. Principles as what we look at with rain. If it depends on how many targets are within and how reflective those targets are within the bin. And you can see here, usually when we're seeing reflectivity over 35 dBz in a smoke plume, that is probably a pretty substantial fire, and it certainly seems to be bearing out. And again, and to look at the transport of that smoke plume as well, and to see just how far it is going. I mean, they were smelling smoke states away.
Yeah,
Possibly.
and red flag warning. I think it's been up for a few days now. For I know it's kind of been fluctuating. I know at one point all of North and South Carolina, and then the mountains of North Carolina, and so it's been fluctuating back and forth over the last several days. But I know a red flag warning up for this particular area, as well as high wind warnings, where we could see, as Shay was talking about, 60 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts. As of 9 o'clock, I'm here in the NWS chat out of Knoxville. And Cove Mountain, which is in the vicinity of this fire, has had a peak wind gust of 74 miles per hour as of 9 p.m. So,
wow,
Oh boy.
that's the equivalent of a hurricane.
Yeah, and so, we saw this play out in 2016. I'm not comparing the events because you can't compare events like that. But you think of a big wildfire like this that's 1,000 acres. And you can see the intensity of the fire via the radar here. And you take 70, 75 mile per hour winds, and those embers and those get blown down upstream or downstream. And that's how these fires continue to grow. And as of right now, zero containment. I know there's a lot of crews there from different municipalities that are trying to help get a handle on it, and some air support. But Jared, James, you guys know when there's 70 mile per hour winds, it's not really safe for helicopters to be dropping water as well. So it's kind of a bad situation. Fortunately, this line of storms and rain is moving in this direction. So hopefully, as we wake up tomorrow, a lot of the rain hopefully will make a big dent on this fire, and it won't spread as much. But from now until then, with those winds continuing to pick up, we could definitely see more areas in the Weirs Valley area unfortunately burn from this fire.
We'll keep a close eye on this. I also wanted to mention we do have other fires burning across the region, including one in North Carolina in Cumberland County. This report from WRAL of that fire near Fayetteville, which has grown to 900 acres, and firefighters still working to get containment of that fire. I mean, certainly the dry conditions, the windy conditions have not been any aid to these firefighting efforts. And while we have some rain that will be coming through, it's going to be relatively quick when you consider the other factors that will be involved with this front coming through. And primarily those winds are going to be, I would imagine, a huge containment challenge. It is 9:36 on this live edition of the Carolina Weather Group. I am James Brierton in Charlotte, North Carolina. We have Scotty Powell in Morganton, North Carolina. And we have in Charleston, South Carolina, Jared Smith. Coming up in a few moments, we're going to look back at last week's severe weather event, including the storm reports and the findings from the National Weather Service, and some video we want to collaborate with you on and crowdsource and see what we can see in Pickens County, where a WeatherStem camera was recording not far away from that EF2 tornado. We have a super chat in from Michael on YouTube asking, good evening, for every single event this way, underperforming for the I-77 corridor in North Carolina thus far, which has been a bit of a trend. With some exceptions. Are we seeing anything that will change for that region with this coming storm event? I'll go first. And I should say, for folks who are just joining us, this is the storm threat tonight through the night from the Storm Prediction Center. And then this is kind of the category outlook for tomorrow. Most of that I-77 corridor is in a marginal threat for tomorrow, maybe slight. So in terms of underperforming, it doesn't have a whole lot of underperforming it can do if you consider that it's already at a baseline of marginal. But I'll punt to Jared Smith because I'm on the same wavelength with Jared when it comes to what a marginal risk in the Carolinas could look like.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be one of our crazy marginal days, at least in the I-77 corridor. For what it's worth, I know that we have kind of a tendency where marginal days, we kind of joke sometimes that there are high risk days because it seems like we can't catch a break on those marginal risk days. But what this is looking like with the line of storms coming through, especially closer to the morning time, you're going to kind of be at a minimum there with instability. The low-level jet does look like it's going to be racing. I will say that, and I cannot count out even the shallowest showers being able to potentially produce, some brief damaging wind gusts there. So, so that is going to be, something that we're going to want to watch. But again, as Scotty mentioned earlier too, there is the front itself coming through. We'll have to watch the timing on that and see if 77 becomes a factor there. We're threading the needle on this, and Scotty, I'll defer to you for a little bit more context around that.
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I was looking at this. There's a PDS tornado warning in southern Mississippi now.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, so talking about this, the front. So tomorrow, the rain looks to move out of here, at least if you're west of 77, or by lunchtime, give or take an hour or two, depending on the storm motion. So the question is, do we clear out? Do we see peaks of sunshine? Do we see all sunshine? Last week we saw, at least I did in the foothills, saw all sunshine, and I had 6 tornado warnings here as the actual front moved through. So it depends. I mean, sometimes when these fronts move through, you kind of get that scattered cloud cover, and you don't really get that instability to build back up. So if we get clouds after the rain moves through, I don't think there'll be much of a threat. Now, if we start to see some partial clearing to all the way clearing as the front moves through, and as James has this up, you can kind of see the front back over Nashville into Western Kentucky, back towards Nashville. And James, if you want to go ahead and keep on playing that, you can kind of see it's approaching the mountains. You kind of see these. Let's go back a frame. Right there. So as it's approaching the mountains, you kind of see these little isolated storms pop up over the Interstate 40 corridor. They kind of just like little blossoms there. That's where we could see something. I'm not going to say it's going to be a severe weather event. I'm just saying we could see some very isolated storms pop up, and those will be associated with the front. So you would still have the shear available. You would have a little bit more cape, a little bit more instability to work with. So we'll have to watch that. But I agree with what Jared and James said. Tomorrow doesn't look to be like an overall, oh my gosh, this is going to be a crazy severe weather day that we see sometimes with our marginal and slight risk. But it bears enough watching that it's honestly going to come down. And I know you guys, if you watched my winter weather coverage here, you're going to hate when I say this, but it's going to come down to nowcasting and just to kind of see how things play out, Yeah.
Sure.
That's how it is here in the Carolinas. A lot of it, the models can give you all these solutions, but it comes down to what's actually happening in the atmosphere. So we'll have to see if things kind of clear out. If they do, then I think we need to heighten our awareness just a little bit. So hopefully that answered your question.
Michael, thank you for that question and the support on YouTube. We mentioned off the top of the show, Patreon is one way to support us here at the Carolina Weather Group. Watching on YouTube and doing a super chat is another way. So we appreciate your support. Sorry, go ahead, Jim.
Oh, no, you're good. I just wanted to kind of just cap that off, actually, with just saying that with the wind fields that we see and the shear that we see, you can never count it out. It's a situation where you can just never count it out. Even and keep in mind that 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts outside of thunderstorms can still cause problems. It can still cause isolated power outages. It can still cause some trees to come down. Maybe not oak trees or anything like that, but it can certainly cause some problems. So we don't want folks necessarily letting your guard down. But I also important to set expectations, and we are not expecting a significant severe weather outbreak tomorrow.
Well, Scotty mentioned nowcasting a minute ago, and it was just a week ago that we were sitting here finding ourselves in a nowcasting scenario, not too dissimilar from the situation we find ourselves in this week, where we're saying there's a slight chance of storms, but we need to see exactly how all the ingredients come together. And Pickens County, South Carolina, certainly got that last week. We were doing the Carolina Weather Group show after several tornado warnings were issued by the National Weather Service across the area. We were on the air doing our weekly show when the situation in Pickens County began to change and unfold. And we do have now the findings from what the National Weather Service found when they went out to visit on the ground where that storm damage was. But before we get to their findings, let's take a look back at what unfolded in real time last Wednesday night while we were on the air here on the Carolina Weather Group. Here are some highlights from March the 23rd.
Guys, get to Pickens County right now. We got a mobile home flipped over. 3 mobile homes flipped over.
Pickens County, South Carolina.
Yeah. All kinds of trees and power lines down.
There might be something. Something may have happened here because we got.
Request Lost Valley Road, Pickens. Reference weather-related activity. Trees down. Houses down.
Jared, did they just put a polygon on that?
Station 2.
No.
I believe you said come to the scene.
Somebody may want to jump in chat.
I'm looking at some of the previous radar data. This is right at 9 o'clock. This is just as we were coming back to the broadcast. You can see some pretty strong outbound pixels, some pretty strong inbound pixels, kind of close together, just west of Pickens here.
We now have a tornado warning for Oconee and Pickens until 10:15.
That you can see here very clearly on base velocity. That tight little couplet here.
And Jared, let me ask, because we were just listening to a scanner traffic, firefighters in Pickens County. The one and the same or something different?
That's a good question.
Frank?
Yeah, it looks to me like this is from the scanner traffic we're hearing is from the earlier storm that went by north and west of Pickens. Guys, this polygon covers the same area pretty much.
So we have the potential that we've got responders trying to assess storm damage from Storm A as Storm B is potentially now coming down the tracks,
Yes.
training behind them at 8:50. And what you're going to see is rotation right on through here for what we are preliminarily calling Storm A, and it's where the reds and the greens come together right on in there. And again, this is 8:55. This is 9 o'clock. This is now 9:10, and it exits out to the north and to the east. And that's what Scotty is listening for on real-time communication, because the first responders are out there doing some storm assessment from potential damage associated with what we think is that one, although there may have even been one before it. And now here at real time at about 9:20, we're watching again now a second area of rotation. As Frank said, just a little bit further to the north than that first one, is sliding its way on through Pickens County. But guys, I'll also say as the radar jumps on back, there may have even been one before that at like 8 o'clock. So Pickens County here having a rough go at it for the last hour and a half, it looks like.
I would be interested to see if we can get any camera footage from the Pickens County EM weather stem camera.
And we are now back with you here on March the 30th. That was a look back at last week's severe weather coverage playing out here on the severe weather coverage brought to you on the Carolina Weather Net. As Will's pointing out, yes, a reminder that was tape playback. No severe weather tonight in the Carolinas. But as Jared mentioned, there was a camera not too far away from what we now know was an EF2 tornado. We're going to show you the footage that camera recorded in just a moment, but I want to read for you first the findings from the National Weather Service of what is that yellow line on your screen for our video viewers. This was the EF2, 6 miles long in Pickens County, beginning here at about 8:52 near Duncan Road. Numerous trees down, including a tree on a mobile home. The tornado traveled northeast soon after and knocked down a slew of trees in its path near Rolling Hills Road and Mill Creek Road. Reports of hundreds of trees down in this area, including trees that were healthy and a couple of feet in diameter. These again the words of the National Weather Service upon conducting their storm survey. The tornado intensified to an EF2 as it moved towards Windmount Road, which is where the worst of the damage was. On Windmount Road, a site-built home, meaning not a mobile home, sustained significant damage. As the tornado continued on its path towards Crystal Lane, Reese Mill Road, and Lost Valley Road, a mobile home was split in two and rolled over off its foundation, along with hundreds of trees down in this area. That was some of what Scotty was picking up on scanner traffic last week, picking up now with the words of the National Weather Service. At this point, the tornado traveled further along the path into 9 Times Road and Meese Mill Road, where it weakened to an EF1. Numerous trees were uprooted in the area. This leads to the end of the tornado's path, which was an isolated EF0 damage near Graverly Road, and the tornado dissipated soon thereafter at 9:06. They also did confirm a EF0 tornado near 6 Mile, South Carolina, also in Pickens County, which was on the ground for about a 1/10 of a mile. But taking the cake, that EF2 with maximum sustained winds, guys, of I'm looking for it here now in the report, but I will tell you that, of course, an EF2 tornado means winds between 111 and 135 miles an hour. And
I want to
reading
say
this
it was
report,
125 maybe.
yeah. What was the question?
I think
the
the
winds?
wind there was 125. I believe. I don't.
125 miles an hour sounds like where we'd be in that ballpark between 111 and 135 miles an hour. And that's the yellow line again on your screen that was on the ground last week for over 6 miles. And you know what stands out to me in this storm survey, that the meteorologists from the National Weather Service, the same folks who are responsible for issuing the warnings one night, then going out into the field the next night to take a look at what transpired, they make emphases here on the type of home, the health of the tree, the size of the tree, because that helps them calculate the wind damage and the speeds that were transpiring. If you've got a smaller tree, it's a lot easier to topple over than these large diameter, healthy trees. Very scary stuff. Miraculous. No serious injuries and no fatalities to report.
I'm
Yeah.
looking that. I'm looking. I'm sorry. It's 115 mile per hour wind. I was just looking that up. So 115 mile per hour, and then there was a separate EF0 there in Pickens County as well.
Yep. Right off over here, much smaller in size, and also not to be left out, we did have another confirmed tornado on the North Carolina side of things, just inside the boundary for the National Weather Service in Greenville, Spartanburg, by the way. So that's what this red line is. They also had to travel up here to Alexander County to do this storm survey. This was an EF1 with max winds of 110 miles an hour. And that was on the ground also for about 6 miles. No injuries reported with that one. But what Jared alluded to during last week's coverage is the fact that WeatherStem has a camera located at the Pickens County Emergency Management. And to kind of show you where that is, I'm going to move my radar back over there. And you guys can see I've got it marked here on a map. They're right about here. And this camera, which is south of downtown Pickens, looks off to the west. I don't know the exact degrees that it was west, but one of the things we did is we went and we obtained that WeatherStem camera. And you can see the sun setting. And you'll remember earlier in tonight's show, one of the things that we are talking about with regards to tomorrow's ingredients is whether or not we will get any sunshine. Because what happened last week was Pickens County and the foothills where Scotty were, where all of this tornadic convective activity ended up happening late in the day with these supercells, all got sunshine that I practically never saw even here in Charlotte along that I-77 corridor. So we've gone back and we've grabbed some of this footage. And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not sure what I'm seeing or what I'm not seeing. I can't work that Hollywood magic where I can take a really dark, grainy video after dark and, bring it up to 4K resolution like you'll see on
But we
NCIS.
could if you would donate. If y'all would donate. We could
Yeah, that sounds lovely.
I just think you have to yell enhance louder, James. I think
Right,
maybe if you do
right.
that, you type a little faster and hit enhance. I think that's how that works.
So take a look at this. We got what I would say is probably a wall cloud or a mothership caught on the camera here just minutes before 8 o'clock. Again, we're looking off to the west. You can see the sun lighting the background. You can see that lowering right on in here. Notice the tree line, kind of get your parameters. We've got grass out in front here because what's going to happen here in the moment on the video is we're going to squeeze it back to a triple box showing you the camera alongside reflectivity and looking at velocity. And you guys can see as we begin to lose the light of day, you can still see those convective towering clouds that we talked about just last night on the advanced storm spotter class off to the west. And, again, it gets dark. I mean, it's nighttime and the sky is obviously not lit, but there are a couple things that caught my eye that I'm not sure what I'm seeing. And I want you, Jared, Scotty, and our viewers to give us your thoughts on what we might be seeing here. We're looking for clouds that are towering up, right? We're looking for things that might be supporting convection. This is 8:35 here. As we continue to play this, we got, of course, lots of lightning that was coming through the area. Take a look. You can see some of the clouds that are closer to the camera. This is another one of those storms kind of teeing up, training over that area. You can see the storm system moving on through. I don't know what that is. That could just be ghosting in the image. Was there on velocity something in that direction? There sure was. I don't feel confident enough to say, oh my God, look, it caught the tornado. I'm not sure that that's what that is, but this footage, had it been during daylight, this camera probably would have been in that exact position we needed. But I will say in these frames here around that tornado, EF2 tornado time that we have confirmed from the Weather Service, you can certainly see some of that kind of that updraft and that downdraft, that wall cloud kind of moving through associated with this storm. You can see it here, right? Jared, you and I were talking about this earlier. This is kind of that rear down flank, I think, from that cell that is moving out of view of the camera.
Yeah, definitely. That wall cloud is very pronounced. And again, the problem, folks, is the problem that we all have trying to chase storms in the Carolinas. Trees, just so many trees. And that's going to make this so tough between the trees and the darkness. But certainly you can see the scud going by. You can see, so and keep in mind, this is about 1 frame a minute. So
correct,
roughly. So again, like you take that with a grain of salt, but certainly, I mean, these the clouds are moving. They were hauling, and I'm sure that it had, I mean, that camera had a really good look at that second
really
couplet. I mean,
and
really
and to be
did.
clear, I don't blame the camera at all. This is not like an underperformance on the camera. This is a dark rural area with not a lot of light to work with. Will, watching on Facebook tonight, says he thinks he sees at least a funnel cloud. And I think it's possible. It's plausible. We know the National Weather Service has a copy of this video. They're taking a look at it as well, too. Again, I think had it been a little bit earlier with a little bit more lighting, there could have been something maybe more pronounced. I can't rule it out completely, which is why I wanted to bring it on here tonight. And I'll also say, after taking those spotter classes, right, guys, and Jared just hit on this, we have things in the Carolinas that makes storm spotting really difficult. Well, be it the tree line, the terrain, whatever it may be. And during that basic class that we at the Carolina Weather Group and the National Weather Service in Columbia presented earlier this March, we played a game of tornado or not tornado, and they were side-by-side photos, and you had to guess which one was the tornado and which one was scud and which one wasn't. And it was hard because you had to take into consideration the quality of the photo, whether or not there was anything blocking your view. And that's what I was reminded of watching this footage. I was going, I feel like I'm playing the is it or is it not a tornado game from the Storm Spotter training.
Yeah, very much so. And again, National Weather Service in Columbia doing a wonderful job, helping facilitate those storm spotter classes. That was a lot of fun, and thank you to all of you who joined us. It was very, very educational, even for those of us seasoned nerds. Honestly, I think it was a really great refresher. And
we talked just last night on the advanced class about how to read the velocity versus the reflectivity, for example.
Yep. And then we're putting all that to use here. Yeah. I mean, I tell you, it is exceedingly difficult without, more than an image a second, and we get those flashes of lightning in there. Those lightning flashes could actually have been, there very well could have been more. We were getting a frame a minute out of this. The camera takes it at a frame a second. We don't have that high a temporal resolution available. So we're just going to be able to go off of the stills that we can see. A lot can happen in a minute.
Yeah.
So
and a lot can happen in the 6 or 7 minutes that this was on the ground for. again, starting at 8:52 and going until 9:06. So.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, those small couplets, I mean, the small couplets, we in weather Twitter are constantly, it's like, oh man, look at that big old couplet. But you know what? The small ones are the ones that get you, because like it's very likely sampling a very tiny circulation there. Number one. Number two, they're small. They hide, they hide, and that's a radar warning operator's nightmare. So you got to be really, keen eye on this stuff.
And some of them can spin up really fast. We mentioned QLCS earlier tonight. Yeah, and that was kind of the situation with these last week, right? Where, yes, this one was on the ground for a little bit of a while, but some of these other ones, like that other one in Pickens County, the EF1 that was on the ground for a tenth of a mile.
The radar beam could have been on the other side.
It could have been spinning and not even looking, and missed it essentially in the blink of the radar. All right, we're coming up here on the Carolina Weather Group to an hour on tonight's broadcast. Before we go, let's go back over to Scotty Powell.
Yeah, so Jared, I hate to put you on the spot, but I think you probably have a better website or whatever to view this. Could you go over to the Go 16 and pull up the nighttime physics? I want to show you all the fire in Pigeon Forge. You can see it from the.
Give me a minute. Yeah, we'll need to. Yeah, give me just a second. I don't think I have I don't have a good source for that directly plugged into my OBS. Let me.
I have. Okay. I can screen share it, but I'm not sure if it would pull up as well as.
I'll read some comments while you guys get those up.
Yeah,
Michael watching again on YouTube, a supporter tonight via Super Chat. The wind literally just starting to gust here in Davidson, was calm all day. Yes, it's getting windier and it's getting warmer as the storm system moves on through us, and as that warm front kind of lifts across the area. Do we have a severe weather threat? Logan asks. Yes, we have a severe weather threat off to our west. That's from the perspective of the Carolinas tonight on Wednesday, and then a lesser chance, but still an active chance, across the Carolinas on Thursday. Have any tornadoes, this is a question from Philip, formed in or around Tennessee tonight?
Yes.
Scotty's shaking his head yes. Have the Weather Service been able to confirm any of their warnings?
Some in the Memphis area. There's been a couple of tornadoes in the Memphis area. Nothing right now in Nashville or anything. I'm not sure what part of Tennessee you're talking about, but there was some reports of tornado in the Memphis metro area, but the line's starting to move into Nashville now, then eventually the Chattanooga, Knoxville area. But I do know there was some warnings, and at least one confirmed in the Memphis metro area, possibly a few more. But I have the Memphis chat up, and I've seen some reports of damage there. So,
well, we'll certainly keep an eye on that, because what happens in Tennessee tonight is tomorrow's weather in the Carolinas. All right, we got your satellite view up, wrapping things up by circling back around to tonight's breaking news. Not far out of the Carolinas, in that Pigeon Forge area in Tennessee, where a wildfire is burning, 250 acres, 0% contained, local residents being evacuated. What do we have here on radar, guys? Satellite, excuse me.
Yeah, so I don't have, it's hard to tell. There we go. I can see it now. So if you go, Jared, to let me look. I have the same up that you're up.
Yeah.
I was on the particle size too. You can tell pretty good there too. The 06.
All right. So
there we go.
6. Oh yeah.
If you want to,
you can see that hot spot right here.
There you go. Yeah. So that's the Pigeon. Well, Brad Panovich is tagging Pigeon Forge, or hashtagging Pigeon Forge fire. So I like that one much better than the crazy long one that everybody else has been using.
This is the shortwave channel 7, the 3.9 micron here. This is a typical fire detection band. And you can see that dark spot right here. That very clearly is the thermal signature for the fire. Now, let me see. I don't think
we've talked about on this show before with regards to this new generation weather satellite and how they can be used to detect fires, sometimes before tools on the ground, people on the ground even know about them. It's the meteorologist checking the satellites to go, what's that?
Yeah, we've done a show on that. And the satellites are absolutely critical. we don't have access to it here, and unfortunately, it is an act of God and Congress, which we all know how that works, to bring up AWIPs over here for y'all to see. But the shortwave channel really is. I mean, it's really pointing out that really dark spot there. There's that. There's your thermal signature there, and I'm gonna over here. I know. I realize I'm looking away from the screen here, so give me just a second here. And what I'm gonna do is. I'm going to pull up that shortwave band here and I'm going to sample it in AWIPS, and I will be able to tell you just how warm that thermal signature is. And it looks like the thermal signature is about 47 degrees Celsius. So that's a start. Let's do, there's also other derived products that it's kind of crazy actually, just to the derived products that are available from the GO satellite 2, and the fire temperature product picks it up. I mean, we have some cloud cover in the area too, and so that's going to interfere a little bit with some of these readings. Some high clouds passing over, so that is certainly going to have an impact on like exactly what we're able to see. But some of the fire temperature products, for example, I mean, 600 Kelvin, that's nothing to shake a stick at, folks. It's definitely not anything to mess with by any stretch of the imagination. So,
I will say the Weather Service also has just recently tweeted out that they are lowering the rainfall totals in this area due to downsloping. And so right now, along the foothills from Sevier County northeastward, the limited rainfall amounts to around just a quarter of an inch or less on average.
Oh,
so
that's not going to help.
A quarter of an inch, it's not going to do a lot at all. So
no. And again, we're already...
News, and we're going to get... Tomorrow, after this front passes through, we're going to get some gusty northwest winds. But so you're going to have that column of smoke switching, and you're going to continue the high winds tomorrow. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if some of our higher elevations in the mountains see some snow flurries Thursday night into Friday. So
I have the high wind warnings pulled up right now across the area for those who are watching us visually tonight. And you can see that in addition to that red flag fire warning, we do have that high wind warning up. So yeah, I mean, we're going to have the winds and the threats that come with the winds during weather, but combined with moving that smoke around, there's going to be an air quality concern as well.
Yep. I got one more thing I want to share, and I know you're wanting to we can hop off.
Yeah, 2-minute warning.
This is the latest HRR wind gust total or forecast. So this is at midnight tonight. You can really see these winds along the foothills of the Great Smoky Mountains right there. I mean, that if you look down here at the legend down here, you're looking at 60, 70, 80 mile per hour wind gusts. But even for instance, here's Charlotte where my cursor's at. Here's Raleigh. Down here's Charleston. So look at these wind gusts tomorrow, y'all. We'll just play this out. This is going to be, let me go back a frame. Sorry. It's the latest run that's fully in. So here is 6 a.m. You can already see here's Charlotte gust 43 miles per hour, Raleigh, Greensboro, Winston-Salem 40 miles per hour, Columbia 38, Greenville, Spartanburg 34, even down into your area, Jared, down in Charleston, you could see 29, 35 mile per hour wind gusts. But look at this as we go throughout the day tomorrow. You're looking at 50 mile per hour wind gusts up into the triad. So this wind continues tomorrow night. Look at 2 a.m. We're still seeing 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts where that fire's at. So not good for that area. And even on your Friday morning at 10 a.m., 45 mile per hour wind gust in Boone. So it's going to be a pretty windy event after this front passes, even in the mountains. So hunker down.
A reminder that you can stay up to date with all the latest severe weather happenings by checking out the Carolina Weather Net, streaming for free on the Carolina Weather Group YouTube channel. Watch it on your phone, your TV, for real-time weather conditions throughout the day on Thursday or any day. It's built just for you, the Carolina weather fan. Well, that is Scotty Powell. That is Jared Smith. I am James Brierton. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Carolina Weather Group. And stay weather aware. We will see you back here again real soon.